and disclaimers. So obviously for just educational and entertainment purposes only. So don't take anything that I say as actual healthcare advice for yourselves. Always double check it with your own healthcare provider. And also be aware that my main knowledge is on the law and regulations in the UK. But I have done some research on the regulations in the US. So my, unless anybody's got anything else that they want to ask about, apple cider vinegar. Yeah, apple cider vinegar is one that I've had quite a few requests from. And so I am going to talk about that one because that's one that I've done some research, read the lack of studies on it, should I say. So, yeah. Bunny bonding boot camp. So when I do bonding, we pick an area of the house that neither of them usually go in to do the bonding because, neutral territory. Right, so apple cider vinegar. Well, what is it? So you've got apples, you ferment them into cider, you then leave the cider on the side and it turns to vinegar. So basically the sugar in your apples, you ferment with yeast to make alcohol and then it degrades down to acetic acid, which is vinegar. So you've got quite a lot of different types of apple cider vinegar. So you can have the unfiltered sort of cloudy apple cider vinegar that still actually has the yeast in it and quite often still has some bacteria in it, and that's usually called the mother apple cider vinegar, and that's the one that can be used as a probiotic because they hope that the bacteria that have grown within the apple cider vinegar are the ones that are the beneficial probiotic ones. But quite often what you find in shops is usually the clear, pasteurized and filtered apple cider vinegar. So it's had the yeast filtered off it. It's also had any bacteria in it pasteurized. So it is purely just the acetic acid, the vinegar, maybe a dash of the alcohol still left over, maybe a dash of the sugar still left over, and obviously all the sort of extracts and products that you would get from apple. So vinegar can be a source of potassium, magnesium, calcium and phosphorus. Obviously not that much, it's only in low concentrations, and it can be a source of polyphenols and antioxidants, the same as what you would have got from eating the apple in the first place. So as they've just stayed the same. It's only the sugar that's converted into alcohol and then converted into vinegar, but some of the polyphenols will be the same. So my whole take from reading all of that and putting my logical head on is it's more of a case of an apple a day keeps the doctor away rather than apple cider vinegar does anything. But I did go and have a look at the studies, and they have done some studies, but usually the quality of these studies are very low. They're usually in the range of, one of the studies was 39 people. They're all sort of very, very low amount of people in these studies. And the one where there was looking at whether it could help with weight loss and sugar, it was 12 weeks alongside a reduced calorie diet. So they're getting everybody to do all the good changes as well alongside it. And they did say that the people in the apple cider vinegar section did lose slightly more than the control group. They did seem to have lower blood sugar levels, but the authors actually quoted that the fact that the acetic acid probably made people feel nauseous and they ate less. So it could have been a result of that. So they do seem to be some studies to show that it may slightly lower the blood sugar levels, may slightly improve the ratio of beneficial cholesterol. The best study I found where the most benefit was as used as a hair rinse for making your hair shiny. So, yeah. So I would say, if you want to have a nice smelling vinegar rinse, apple cider vinegar may be your choice if you want to place that in your washing machine. Although I have heard that it's actually not that good for washing machines to use apple cider vinegar. But when it comes to all the health claims, the very limited data. From the looks of it, it's come from the fact that many diets that include apple cider vinegar as dressings for salads, like the Mediterranean diet, are healthy diets. And having this alongside, it is providing sort of another slight portion of an apple and the antioxidants and the nutrition that you'd get in an apple, alongside with the other things that you're getting in the salad. And that's where there may be some benefits as part of a full healthy lifestyle. But using it as a medicine to get a specific attribute doesn't look like there is any evidence out there. So, yeah, the health, Lisa, the health claims about it are absolutely wild. Cure-alls for everything. And although there is a bit in some of the literature that says there may be a slight chance of it helps with lowering of blood sugars, it's not something that you could replace a medication with. Yeah. So, yeah, it would be great in a stew. So if you're already using vinegar in your recipes, in your diet, then apple cider vinegar, it is an option. And you might have slightly better added nutrition in it to normal plain vinegar, white wine vinegar. But again, white wine, you're getting it from grapes. You've probably got the polyphenols and things from white grapes. But it's like trying to say, what's the difference between replacing your grape consumption with white wine? Everything in moderation. Hi, Erin. Great to see you here. If you like the shot of apple cider vinegar, yeah, that's fine. It is rather tart like kombucha, and that's what I was also going to say. So kombucha and other fermented foods that are combined with vinegar and have this sort of the mother, as I explained to it at the beginning, that has the yeast and the bacteria from the mother, can actually be really good in helping provide a probiotic for your healthy gut microbiome. But you don't need to be drinking bucket loads of it. You can just having a small portion as part of a healthy diet to help have a good healthy microbiome. But again, you don't want to be limiting yourself down just one type of bacteria or yeast that you're consuming. The whole point of having a healthy microbiome is you need hundreds of different types of bacteria that live together synergistically. So you need to be using different things all the time. So I've quoted before things from the Zoe study, which is King's College London, and they do a lot of research on the microbiome, and they suggest that you're looking at 30 different plant-based foods over a week. It's more about the variety of foods that you're having rather than limiting yourself on a superfood, because there is no such thing as a superfood. You've just got some foods that are more nutritional dense, have different nutrition, and ones that are less nutritionally dense and maybe higher calorific in things. So, yeah, as a salad dressing, which is exactly where I would place apple cider vinegar, it's fine. Use it in salad dressing. Use it as a food supplement. As for whether I would actually buy any of the supplements, I probably wouldn't. For many of the benefits that you're going to get from apple cider vinegar, it's from the actual having the apple cider vinegar as part of a healthy diet. To take it as just a supplement where it's actually been purified, processed and dried, you'll have probably lose half of that benefit, and then your body probably won't actually absorb the same benefit. So yeah, I probably wouldn't take any sort of tablets of apple cider vinegar where you're actually getting a very unknown small amount of the actual product in with a load of fillers. Yeah, that's it. Everybody's always wanting to know that one magic component, that one magic thing to health in a healthy diet. And actually, the answer is much more complex. It's much more about having variety and, yeah, just variety and an overall look on your health. So I did then look at sort of what are the risks of apple cider vinegar, because obviously you with these radical and crazy claims, you get people that try to sort of overdose taking it, trying to get maximum benefit out of it. And because it is an acid, you are actually at risk of irritating your esophagus by drinking it neat, it causing indigestion and nausea, and even in some people vomiting. I'm pretty sure that if I just drunk a shot of apple cider vinegar, I would probably throw up. I'm not one for coping with that sort of thing. There is also the risk that it does seem to do some effect on your blood sugar. So it could actually lower your blood sugar level in a way that's not controlled, especially if you're already on anti-diabetic medication or on insulin. So there is always the warning there. It can also lower your potassium levels, the way the acetic acid, as your kidneys try to excrete it, your kidneys also overcompensate trying to excrete potassium as well. And there is a caution in kidney disease that if you've got kidney disease, overloading your body with the acetic acid can your body can't cope with it, your body can't excrete it, and obviously things like the acidosis is not good on your system. And so they also caution if you're already on diuretics that also lower your potassium, it can also lower your potassium as well. So as with everything, there is always a dosage problem. Anything can be toxic, even if it's good for you in a small amount. There will always be a limit to where it's too potent and leads into side effects. So, yeah, everybody's on that quest for that one superfood. I wish there was. I also wish it was donuts, but yeah, it's not going to be, is it? And you can have donuts with lots of different things on top. You know, I do like the ones with strawberries and things on top, strawberry jam. You know, I do claim it is my one of my 5 a day when I have strawberry jam in a donut. So that is really all the research that there is on apple cider vinegar. When you come to all the crazy claims and everything, there is no studies, no background data to support any of them. And then, yeah, as a hair rinse, I think is probably the most useful thing if you want something to help strip off the oils off your hair. Apple cider vinegar might make you smell nice. Oh, Oreo. Yeah, my daughter likes the Oreo donuts. I don't like Oreos. So yeah, not usually mine. I usually like the ones that have got sort of chocolate fudge on top, chocolate on chocolate on chocolate. Magic trick for you losing weight? No. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about sort of variety in your plant-based things, and yeah, strawberry jam. Yeah. Maple and bacon. Are you Canadian? So I was thinking maple syrup and bacon. It's the sort of thing that my Canadian friend would want to eat. She introduced me to is it Tim Hortons and their donuts. So yes. Yeah. So I think that's it. 15 minutes in, and we've covered everything that there is to know about apple cider vinegar. Obviously, yeah, there isn't anything yet to commercialize it. So no, there isn't going to be bigger studies. No, nobody's going to want to put money in to make an expensive apple cider vinegar product. And again, with a lot of nutrition based things, it's quite often anecdotal evidence. And when you do trials on trying to see which types of diets work better than others, when you're opening it out to sort of thousands of people to get it statistically significant, you're also opening it out to the fact that people getting 1,000 people to stick to one particular diet with that particular food can be difficult without actually having the money to fund to make sure that they want to go. Yeah, I think now I'm going to make everybody hungry, aren't I? So southern USA. Okay. So well, I think now we're getting more and more worldwide. We're all enjoying different cuisines from all around the world. Do you mean chromium? Chromium is what they like to call a micronutrient, and chromium, it's also sort of in apple cider vinegar. It's also in mushrooms as well, chromium, and some other foods. And it's a micronutrient. You need it in extremely small amounts, but one of the proteins that you do actually need it in that actually requires chromium is insulin. And so that's why it's always touted as the micronutrient for lowering blood sugars. But just because you now have more resources for your body to make more insulin doesn't necessarily alter the reason why somebody may have diabetes or problems with their blood sugar. So although sometimes it can be that it's the pancreas is not creating enough insulin, it's usually not because they don't have the resources to make the insulin. It's that the pancreas itself can't make enough insulin. And also the majority of people with type 2 diabetes, it is the fact that their body is insulin resistant, so that their whole body doesn't respond to insulin as well as it should be. So even if you've got more resources and make more insulin, you've still got problems controlling your sugar levels. So yeah, chromium is a micronutrient that is required for the creation of insulin, but hardly anybody would ever be deficient enough for it actually to be the reason why they can't control their blood sugar levels. I have to say, I'm not keen on bacon being with sweet products. I do know they do things like pancakes with sausages, and it's not me. I either like my savoury to be savoury and my sweet to be sweet. I'm not one for mixing and matching. So I'm a definite no pineapple on gammon or pizza. So even though I am allergic to pineapple as well. So yeah, although when I read the word Chrome, I was actually thinking of the web browser, but I'm sure the web browser has nothing to do with eating. No. Although I would like to find out what would give me nice Wolverine sharp nails. I did have a look at the research because I do have quite fragile nails, but that's probably more to do with my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and my lack of being able to make collagen correctly. I did look into the evidence behind using biotin to help strengthen hair, skin, and nails, and the evidence out there is very, very limited. So, and again, unless you actually have shown to be deficient in biotin, just supplementing extra isn't actually going to cure bad nails and help. So, yeah, so although there are some things that you can do for hair, skin, and nails, but it's more just about having a good overall diet with nice healthy fruit, vegetables, polyphenols, all of that sort of thing. All right, so I'm going to move on to the more controversial topic, which if anybody hasn't, or if anybody in this channel and is watching doesn't already follow Erin Bees or DC, they're the two main creators that have fetched it to light about the fact that there is a MLM company out there who have been promoting a CBD product, claiming that it is free of THC. And unfortunately, somebody has ended up proving positive on a drugs test. So the whole issues around why the MLM structure of marketing is unfair on the all the distributors who never manage to make their money back, and all the money going to the top. Not that it's pyramid shape, but to the people at the top. Anybody, if you want to know anything about them, subscribe to Erin or subscribe to DC's channel. Watch all the information on there. I am just going to talk about the CBD and THC part of that. So I hope you don't mind me just sticking to my area of expertise on the pharmaceutical quality. And yeah, if you want to know anything about MLM structures, go to the experts over on the other channels. So yeah, I went down quite a big rabbit hole doing the background research for this. So as you're probably aware, CBD, cannabinoid, and THC's tetrahydral cannabinoid, which is usually comes in, there's different types. There's one that's called Delta 9, one that's called Delta 8. It's the Delta 9 THC that's the one that has the most hallucinogenic effects, and is the one that's classed as the Schedule 1 in sort of in the UK. It's got the highest sort of schedule. I'm going to have to do this differently. So it's classed as Schedule 1 when I'm talking about it as a pharmacist, as in it's not allowed on any prescriptions except for under consultant advice and consultant prescribing. Although when you've got the categories of CDs on what the police allow you to have, you have A, B, and C, and I think it's in the C categories. That determines the prison sentence and such, like when you're caught either holding it or distributing it. So they're two different things. Right, I'm getting myself a bit flustered, so I'm going to just take a breath. Look, yeah, so that's what I am going to talk about, is the quality control is very, very different between companies. And I found some evidence to show that. So to make CBD, you need to use the hemp plant. So there's quite a few different species and varieties of hemp plants. Some have more CBD, some have more THC, some have more of the Delta 9, some have more of the Delta 8, plus the fact that there is actually over 100 different types of cannabinoids that can be present in the plant. And there's a whole process of how the plant makes it, and it moves through the different molecules. So it depends on the plant, which species you've got. It depends on the age of the plant, how long it's been growing for how long, how much of each of the different ingredients it's got in it. It depends on its situation of growing, so how much moisture it's had, how much sunlight it's had, how much nutrients it's actually managed to gain from the soil it's been grown in. So every batch of hemp that is grown will have different quantities of CBD, THC, and all the other 100 odds different chemicals, plus all the other products that are present in plants, you know, the cellulose, the so all of the other sort of parts of the plant. They'll all be in different concentrations. And so when you're actually harvesting it, you've got to harvest it and you've got to purify it down. And then you've got to try and get out the different substances that you want. So every batch will be different. Every batch you've got to try and purify, and every batch you've got to pull out the ingredients that you want in the concentrations that you want. And that will be different every time. So every batch needs quality controlling. You can't just stick them the same leaves through the same machine and expect the same results every time. It's going to be different. It's not the same as just producing a chemical in a lab, which is why, although many of the different medicines that we have got have originally come from plants, manufacturers have learned how to actually create that drug molecule in the lab, so that they can have consistency with creating it, rather than relying on a plant doing the making and you relying on the plant producing it in the correct quantities. You probably all realize this, but when you eat different foods that are grown naturally, they taste differently. One of the biggest differences can be things like honey. Locally grown honey in different areas can taste totally different depending on the bees that have made it. And it'll be the same with growing of hemp. Although you might have all had the same sort of mother plant that you've grown your species from, you know, you've got evolution going with each generation will be slightly different. So when they do this, the extracting of the CBD, even if you've grown a type of hemp that has higher levels of CBD and lower levels of THC, there will always be some THC in the sample. And the best that a manufacturers ever can do is try and get that THC and try and extract as much of that out as possible to make sure that it's below the recommended threshold. And obviously there is the legal threshold that they're supposed to get it below for it to be touted as THC free. But there is actually warnings already out there that says even if you are getting CBD that is touted as CBD that is touted as THC free, please be aware that that may not always be sufficient for you to not be caught out to have THC in your system, or any one of the other 100 cannabinoid molecules that are deemed as illegal. So I'm just going to see if I can share my screen. And I've been trying to play with this. So can you all see my screen? Excellent. So, yeah. So, okay, Marie. Yeah, my mum is a chemist, but she dealt with more of the inorganic chemistry rather than the organic chemistry. But yeah, that is, you know, the pharmacology, learning to make synthetic versions of the chemicals so that you can actually be very consistent in how you can process it to make a medicinal strength quality product. Yeah, the soil can make a huge difference. We all know that. Well, I've got some. I think it's hydrangeas, and literally the colour of the hydrangeas is either blue or pink, depending on whether your soil is alkaline or acidic. It can make a huge difference. Hi, Shelby. All right, so yeah. Laurie, good reminder to everybody, get yourself out of top chat and into live chat so that you can see everything. Also, quick plug, can you make sure that you like, and if you can also double check that you are subscribed. For some reason, YouTube keeps knocking subscribers off each day. So as I see 2 people subscribe, it seems to knock one subscriber off. So excellent. So yeah, so I've been doing quite a lot of research. So places like this, the National Library of Medicine, where a lot of the different journals are. So this was a study done on the label accuracy of unregulated cannabidiol products against their label claims. And obviously they looked at quite a lot of different products, and also they compared it to the actual Epidiolex, which is one of the actual licensed products for use by healthcare. So obviously they will have better quality control and better procedures in place. And as it was talked about yesterday, the LCMS, the liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry, which is the gold standard in testing for different organic molecules within a product. And they found that out of all the 80 products, there was 37 of them were more than 10% different to what they were on the label. 12 of the products contained less, which just means that it'll be less effective, while there was also 25 products that contained more, of which you've also then got the risk of toxicity, especially if you go from using one brand that's been having lower, you've not been feeling as though you've got the effect. So you swap to a different brand who happens to be giving you higher dosage, you can suddenly be throwing yourself to the other end. And this was just generally, this was just all companies. So they didn't specifically target MLM companies. So one of the, let me see if I can find which one it is. I found this, which was, this is to do with sports. I know the incident that's happened in recent days has been somebody wanting to go into the emergency services, which again is a place where you need to be able to prove zero on a drugs test. But I was looking up at the sports. This was one of the ones that I actually found explained it the best. And I will leave all these links in my description box below afterwards, so that if you actually want to use any of these links. But so as they say, the CBD is one of over 100 different chemicals produced by the cannabis plant, and it is the delta. So this triangle is actually the Greek symbol for delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, which is the one that's classed as illicit. But when it comes to sports, as they explain in here, the THC, they have a threshold in urine of the 150 nanograms per milliliter. But there's some other ingredients within the hemp plants that may not even be tested for, but they are tested for in sports. And even just getting it as just showing as a detection can be enough to class as an incident and adverse analytical finding, and will cause problems. So they are very much, if you're going into doing sports, they really do say sort of you're probably best avoiding all different CBD products, because you can't guarantee, unless you were to get sort of medical grade with medical testing. And again, it provides a bit more about the background about different plants and everything. So I ended up going down another bit of a rabbit hole and found, I don't think this one's going to show. No, that website keeps messing, but that's another really good article that goes in depth about. But then I ended up with the FDA warning letters of test results on cannabinoid related products. So far in 2023, I couldn't see any MLMs on there. So if you do know of any MLMs that you think should be on this list and being things, make sure that you put your request through to the FDA with the information. So we've had warning letters in 2003. I don't know whether any of you would be able to know whether any of these are the parent companies to any MLMs. The only one that I did notice was when I went down into 2022. So these were all the ones from 2023. And then when I went down into 2022, I'm sure you can all see the one that I've already clicked on. So Young Living has already had warning letters about their claims. So this then fetches back to the other issue, which is the difference between some companies and the MLM companies. So for the majority of companies to be in lines with the FDA, they should be testing their products to be making sure that they're compliant and making sure the THC is less than the legal limit. They should then also be writing on their products that they cannot guarantee that there isn't any THC in the product, and they should put the warnings on all their products to say, although we have tried to remove the THC, we cannot guarantee we've removed all the THC, therefore there is a risk that you could test positive on drug testing, and they should be making that perfectly clear. And obviously on the majority of products that you would get from most manufacturers, them warnings will be clearly on the labels. The problem that we have with the MLM structure is that even though it might be on small print somewhere on their website, even if they just suddenly add it to the website once they get found out, their distributors are not giving that information out. The distributors are giving out the information of what will sell the product. So they will be saying, oh, it's THC free, it's absolutely fine. And even though I've already read on the products, they always say not to be given to under 18s, because that's the warning that has to be on all CBD products. Yet you do see them promoting on social media that they're suitable for their children, therefore they don't have any problem giving it with children. So information of how long it's flexible in human testing. Right. It used to be quite a long. Actually, the quickest way for me to look that up, if I can do that, if I show you my, now this is where I'm going to have to, I still have technical difficulties, and I'm not as proficient in technical difficulties as DC is. So what I'm going to do is can you all see my Google screen? So Sativix are on Mucosa spray. Now this is a Delta-9 THC cannabinoid that is available in the UK on prescription. So this actually has the data for what it's used for. So in the UK, we do have a few THC products that are available on prescription, but only if you reach certain NICE criteria, which is our National Institute for Clinical Excellence, and that the patient is under consultant, and then the prescribing has to be done by the consultant in the hospital, and the hospital have to source the prescriptions. It can't be, a community pharmacy can't get in these supplies. It's only a hospital pharmacist from a specialist unit that can get in these supplies. So, as you can see, so, and even so, we've still not learned how to make Delta-9 THC in the lab, so it is still got from the cannabis sativa leaf flower. and obviously they work out exactly, they extract that exactly, and then they mix it in to provide the product. So if we go all the way down to the pharmacological products, the pharmacokinetics. So I will try and interpret this for you. So basically, they're trying to say how much levels are in and how long. Obviously, they do say there is a high degree of variability between patients. So the I'm just going to strike. So it gets maximum in is after sort of 60 minutes on the Sativex. Obviously, smoked cannabis and such like can be along different methods, getting different. But as you can see, it's absorbed quickly and distributed into body fat. So it totally depends on the person on how it's redistributed round the purse, round. Right, I'm going to. So some of it goes straight through the liver and it degrades it straight away. But I think. Okay, it is saying that the elimination it is in the order of sort of 24 hours to 36 hours. Yeah, no, it's not actually going to tell me on this site. So it's not saying how long it's just saying how long it's sort of out of the bloodstream, not how long it takes to get out of fatty tissue. That's probably something that I'm going to have to do a bit more research into. Because although yes, the instant high of it being in your bloodstream will then be out of your system within sort of 2 to 3 days, and so somebody could then be clear-headed, will no longer be getting any of the beneficial effects after 2 or 3 days of it being out of their system, because it's no longer in the actual sort of active system. It is fat soluble. It is going into the fat layers, and obviously depending on a person's distribution of fat will be different, and therefore then how long it actually takes to cleanse out of the fat slowly over time. Yeah, it is obviously not quick. I have heard things quoted before that you should leave at least 90 days. And I'm pretty sure that's what's normally quoted, is that if you're wanting, well, from the UK, if you're wanting a good weekend over to Amsterdam, where it's legal in cafes, that you need to leave at least 90 days before you actually have to go for anything that requires testing. And that seems to be sort of the classed as the usual. But I'd have to do any research, but I can see that it would vary very differently between different people, the effects on that. Oh, yeah. Alcohol is actually pretty easy. Unless you've got liver cirrhosis because of the alcohol, then usually a person's elimination of alcohol is pretty much standard and the same for most people. And it is usually about 1 unit per hour. And the interesting thing about alcohol is that after sort of 1 or 2 drinks, you actually meet the maximum enzyme capacity for alcohol. So it then does take 1 hour per unit out of your system, whether you've taken 50 units or just 5 units. It's 1 hour, because there's only so many enzymes that can actually metabolize it and get it out of your system. Whereas quite often with the majority of other drugs and medication, you have what is classed as a half-life. So actually at higher concentrations, you excrete it quicker. So I don't know if any of you actually understand what half-lives are, but a half-life is sort of an exponential sort of curve down. So if you've got sort of 100 grams of something in your system, the half-life is for that life to go down, for that to go down to 50 grams. So that could be like 4 hours. So at 4 hours, you started with 100 grams. After 4 hours, you're down to 50 grams. Then in another 4 hours, you only actually excrete half again. You only sort of dilute by half again. So then after another 4 hours, you would actually be down to 25. And then for another 4 hours, you'd have that 25 again, down to 12.5. And then again, you would have from 12.5 down to 6.25. And then they usually say for that sort of medication elimination, usually say at about 5 hours, you've actually got down from what was a normal level to actually a non-therapeutic removal from your system. So that's not quite the best explanation of half-lives. I could probably do that better if I could actually find a graph, put it on the screen and actually explain it sort of properly in that sort of sense. So have we got any other questions for today? Just the only problem about StreamYard is it doesn't tell me how many people are on like it does for like it does on YouTube. So I'm just having to go back to that. I am planning, so I did do my colloidal silver video last week. So if anybody hasn't seen my colloidal silver video, it is there for you to have a look at. Give me any feedback on whether you enjoyed that and whether you would like more of these sort of videos. Do you prefer them as my sort of more sort of standalone videos when I talk about one subject and I put it together, or do you prefer these live streams where I just waffle away to you as I try and explain it? I have tried doing some shorts, but unfortunately the YouTube algorithm hates me and my shorts just don't get shown to anybody. So I get like 5 or 10 views for my shorts and nobody ever sees them or looks at them. And I think that's because my usual cohort of people prefer to actually have a bit more of an interactive conversation than just watching random shorts. Or it could just be that my shorts quality is a bit useless, because I think with this sort of information, it's not a quick dopamine hit reel. It is, I'm trying to explain something sensible, and that's not the sort of thing that people want to sit and listen to when they're scrolling through shorts. They want a sort of a hit of something that's funny and dopamine hitting. So medications, they can have totally different half-lives. So the half-life is for the first half in X hours, but then you only go down half again in the next X hours. So actually it's at least 5 half-lives for it to be out of your system when you're saying about half-lives. So something like paracetamol has a half-life of about sort of 5 or 6 hours, which is why you need to have dosing of paracetamol every 4 to 6 hours to fetch the level back up. Some things like levothyroxine, it has a half-life of getting on for about 5 days. So technically with the levothyroxine, you could probably be taking your dosage every other day or every 3 days, and you've still got plenty in your system 5 days later. And so it stays fairly stable. But that is why, so some of the different medicines, the withdrawal effects can be very different because of the half-life. So with SSRIs for antidepressants, there is fluoxetine, and then there was an older one which was used quite a lot to start with, but it's now gone sort of out of fashion and it's not used, and that was paroxetine. And paroxetine was known for really, really bad withdrawal effects, and that's because its half-life was about 12 hours. So if you wasn't dosing with it every day, you were suddenly getting really bad withdrawal effects from it. Whereas fluoxetine, which is now what quite often we use first line, its half-life is 3 days. So when it comes to titrating down from fluoxetine, you can actually lower the dose very, very slowly, and then you can go to alternate days dosing. And the way that it goes out of your body is so much more gentle that you're going to have so much less of a risk of withdrawal side effects and problems. So I hope that explains that well. So yeah, it can be always interesting to know with medicines what the half-life is. You can quite often tell because of how often things need to be dosed. So if they need to be dosed sort of 2 or 3 times a day, or even 4 times a day, it's because they've got such a short half-life that you need to keep topping it up. Also, you may find that some tablets, things like propranolol, if you were to take it without as a straight tablet, you need to take it 3 or 4 times a day. So it quite often always comes in a modified release preparation so that it gives you a stable level for 24 hours, so that it releases slowly in your intestines for 24 hours, so that it's going into your body as quickly as it's being excreted to keep the levels stable. Okay, you like a mix of both? Yeah, so that's fine. YouTube does give a useful statistic on how many people are the same that watch lives, watch videos and watch shorts. I did feed back to them because you can only get them as the live streams both and shorts, the live streams both and videos, or the videos both and shorts. And I've fed back to them that actually that would be much, much better as 3 circles in a Venn diagram, so that you know exactly how many people are right in the middle that watch all 3. I'm probably not the only person that's reported that back to YouTube, but I do love a good Venn diagram. Have I done something on probiotics? I did talk about probiotics back in one of my previous live streams. It was one where I was also talking about how MRA and the serotonin in your gut doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get serotonin in your brain. But that is one of the videos that I have got on my list of things to do, is probiotics versus antibiotics, because one of the times that it is actually very useful to take a probiotic is following on from having antibiotics, where the antibiotic, especially broad spectrum antibiotics, wipe out the good bacteria in your stomach, and you need to be replenishing it. So that is one time when having some probiotics can be useful. So that was one of the videos I was planning on doing. I've got a whole list on my screen. Another one I was thinking of doing is the omega 3, 6 and 9 supplements, which I have touched on slightly before, but doing one in great detail about that, because obviously you've got the heart protective effects, the brain effects, and sort of there is some evidence that it is beneficial, although possibly nowadays statins are more beneficial than the omega-3s for heart health, but obviously not everybody can tolerate a statin, so it still can be of a benefit. The benefit out there for omega-3s on brain function is less. There is some, it can be useful, but it isn't a cure-all, and it really doesn't rewire the brain from people that are autistic. That's a total fallacy, but it can help people sort of have remove a bit of the brain fog, help with brain function. So that was another couple of videos I was going to do, the omega 3, 6 and 9, and also statins, when and where, the benefits versus the risk. So right, paracetamol. So yes, paracetamol and migraines isn't always the best product for migraines. It can work. It can work for some people. You do have to be careful because you can get what's called paracetamol-induced headaches. If you end up overusing paracetamol for headaches, you can get paracetamol overuse headaches as a rebound. The way to make paracetamol more effective, especially when you're taking it for migraines, is to add caffeine to it. You don't need to buy the Panadol Extra. You can just have a cup of coffee alongside with the paracetamol. It helps boost the paracetamol. We usually say not to avoid cocodamol. Obviously, over the counter, you can only get the 8 milligram codeine with 8 milligram codeine with paracetamol, cocodamol. But we usually do say avoid that in migraines because quite often it has nausea as one of its side effects. And obviously nausea and vomiting are a couple of the symptoms for many migraine sufferers. So they can actually worsen it, but also it can help because it can actually causes a bit of drowsiness. It can help you sleep. There is a couple of expensive products that have a very, very low dose of an antiemetic in them, but they don't really work. It's like the Pink Mag Relief because they're not in a dosage that actually would provide much benefit. The other alternative is if you've already got something in your stomach and your stomach isn't too sensitive, then naproxen can be an alternative, but you have to make sure that you buy the naproxen that's the immediate release naproxen, and it's not one that's got a enteric coating shell on it, because the enteric coating shell helps protect it from the acid in your stomach, but it also takes 2 hours for it to release into your system, which is by the time you've taken it is too late, 2 hours later. But naproxen can be useful to take. You can buy it as, I think it's 250 milligrams is the strength that you can buy over the counter. Obviously, it does come in a higher strength. If you find that useful but not quite enough, you can get the higher strength from your GP. Technically, the thing that's proved the best for the migraine sufferers in actually helping the pain is aspirin. But hardly anybody can actually tolerate aspirin on the stomach long term, and it comes with its own issues. So, but 600 milligrams of aspirin is actually the gold standard for getting rid of the migraine pain. It's just pretty impossible to tolerate on the stomach because it is so harsh. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think. I've not heard of that. I'm going to have to have a look at that. Kratom. Yeah. 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 So obviously in the UK, over the counter, you can only buy paracetamol codeine up to sort of 8 milligrams codeine. Yeah. So the nasal sprays, are you I think the nasal sprays are still only available on prescription, the sumatriptan nasal sprays. I don't think they're available over the counter yet, although I've got a feeling that they probably will be able to come over the counter soon. They have been generic for such a long time, and there really isn't any there's no major precautions from using it. The main reason why I wouldn't recommend having them that often over the counter is because you'd be best, if you're having sufficient migraines that are bad enough, you need to be under the care of a specialist. But yeah, oh, yeah, just jump over. It is crazy how the different regulations in different countries are on what's available over the counter, what's available for a pharmacist to actually sell people in different countries. And it can, and I think in the UK, we're a lot more cautious on what gets sold over the counter, but because our NHS provides the majority of things on prescription, there's never been a need for it to go over the counter. Whereas I think in other countries where you have to pay for your health care, there's been more of a drive to get things over the counter where people can actually buy them easier over the. So sumatriptan is the same. It's prescription only in the US. Migraine treatments have come on so much recently. We now have some biologicals, injections for the treatment of and prevention of migraines. So with migraines, sort of the technology is really coming along that, yeah, you can actually have preventative treatment. So if you are having more than sort of 4 or 5 migraine days a month, you really should be going to a GP and having a discussion of whether you actually have something to prevent it. I have, there's many different things that can help prevent it. So there's things like the beta blockers, the propranolol. There's things like the tricyclic antidepressants at a low dose that also help with nerve pain, like the amitriptyline can help. Also, some of the anti-epileptics can help prevent migraines being triggered, things like the topiramate. And then I've just been for my top up because I get migraines, and I found having Botox helps. And I only actually need to have my Botox every 8 months, and that's enough to mean that my migraines are down to less than 1 a month. And when I start having, and then over sort of last month, I had 2 in the month. I phoned up, booked in to get my Botox. So, and then hopefully, you can see I've still got a little bit of eyebrow movement, but by just taking out of all that tension out of the hairline, it helps prevent the migraines being triggered. Okay. So the sumatriptan, this is a difficult one because the sumatriptan itself doesn't actually cause the side effects that means that you can't operate heavy machinery. However, there's no way you want to be operating heavy machinery if you've got a migraine. So on that way, I would say it's actually, it's more the condition that you're treating that you need to avoid. You would need to avoid operating heavy equipment. Because there's no way, if you've got a migraine, you don't need to be driving anywhere. I do know that I've been traveling home when I've had a migraine started, and I've literally got home and thought, no, I have no idea how I've got home safely. But yeah, the problem with the things, so the symbols and things that say don't drive and operate machinery, is that a lot of people don't listen to them. But I do actually have to give the warning out. If a medicine does say do not drive or operate machinery under the influence, if you are actually caught in a car accident and any of those drugs are actually found in your system, it can make your insurance null and void, and it can put you in trouble for sort of criminal proceedings, depending on the type of accidents that we was in. Okay. So I think I've talked about this before. Sometimes some people are just more sensitive to medications, and it depends on the medication, on the distribution within your body. Obviously, people with smaller body volumes, especially the body volume of their blood supply, can have, the same amount is actually more concentrated. And some people's sort of blood supplies might penetrate, their blood flow to the brain might be more than other people, and they get more side effects. So yeah, side effects can be very person dependent, and what can be the appropriate dose for one person can be totally different. Yeah, for 4 times a year, that's probably infrequent enough that you don't want to be taking a daily medication to try and prevent it. And especially if you can work out what your triggers are and try to avoid them. Yeah, as I say, it is the aura, and yeah, I do get it. I get like the what do you call it? So the fuzziness round here. So, and yeah, I just have to go lay down in a nice dark room and be left. Yeah, it can be. It depends. Everybody's makeup's slightly different, and that's why when you do when you was looking at the pharmacokinetics of different medications, they will give you the average value, but then they will also give you the confidence intervals of where 90% of people are. So you have like usually a normal distribution curve. And although the majority of people will be in the middle, I'm not very good with this. It's not a mirror. I'm doing the wrong way. So the majority of people will be in the middle at the peak, but you will have people at the two extremes of the distribution. And so when you read the pharmacokinetics of different drugs, some are sort of very definite. It acts exactly the same on most people, but then other ones, they can be vastly different. And then some drugs you have to dosage on the person's weight, and sometimes you have to dose on the person's weight, taking into fact their muscle, what their lean muscle mass is, and some people you have to take into account what their fat muscle is. As we were saying, sort of with the cannabinoids, they're very fat soluble. They go and distribute in somebody's fat, so they can quite often sort of take it and it'll immediately go into their fat and out of their blood supply, whereas other people that are just purely muscle. So yeah, so there's very big differences between different people. Again, I can do a whole video on that, on the different effects of different medication in different types of people. Especially drugs that what we class as having a narrow therapeutic window. So for some drugs, you've got to very closely monitor the drug levels to see that you're in the therapeutic window. Below that, you're not getting any benefit, and above it, you can be toxic. So there's quite a few drugs, things like digoxin, which actually comes from digitalis, the foxglove. It's got a very narrow therapeutic index, so you have to really take into account a patient's body weight, age, their kidney function, and really calculate exactly what dose to be giving them, and then taking blood levels and exactly how to measure it. Another one that's I used to do in hospital was gentamicin. It's a antibiotic, but literally you give the infusion, you have to measure the peak half an hour after the infusion for that patient, work out what it was, measure again in 6 hours later, work out what the low is, and then individualize for that patient exactly what the dosage should be for the future, the height, the dose and the frequency. And I remember having to do that on December the 31st, 1999. I was on call. I was the only one that was willing to do the on-call for the millennium. And I was at my friend's house, sober, at the party there, got a call about 11:30, and I was in the kitchen doing the calculations for the gentamicin in the kitchen, working it out for the patient so that we could work out what the next dosage would be and what the next frequency would be. Doing it all by hand because I didn't actually have the laptop with me back then. So yeah, so that was interesting. And I remember then going back home and then double checking all my working out to go, yeah, I haven't killed that patient. So yeah. London. I do. Yeah, I do love London. I've been down there quite a few times. I do like going down. I've got friends that live down there that I visit, and I've taken my daughter down there a few times to watch shows. We've watched Matilda, The Lion King, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Phantom of the Opera, Joseph. Love shopping down Oxford Street, and as anybody who is not a tourist knows, you can also go on the streets that are sort of parallel running behind that are much more interesting than actual Oxford Street. So, yeah. So, okay. So, bye, Laurie. I'm probably going to end now because, yeah, I think I'm talking for an hour and 15 minutes. Yes, it is. And it's probably the pharmacist in me, but I'm always one for double checking, triple checking, and such like. And yeah, so always good. Yeah, I remember there's a guitar street on one of the parallel streets that I really love going and just window shopping. I can't play the guitar. My daughter can. Yeah. The thing was, I'm not a big drinker, so it didn't really bother me. And the group of friends that I was going out with weren't big drinkers anyway, so it made no difference to me. And I think it was 4 times the normal pay for something. It was crazy because nobody wanted to work it, and I kept quiet until the pay was right. So, yeah. So thank you again, everybody, for joining me. Yeah, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and try and push my channel out there. I'm now at 428 subscribers, which is amazing, even if YouTube keeps trying to take people off me. And yeah, my watch hours, I'm just over 400, so I'm only 10% of the way there with watch hours. But I'm sure as I get more and more videos loaded up, when people do join me, they can go backwards and watch them. So I'm sure the watch hours will accumulate over time. But I have only been going since April, so I'm really impressed with the support that I've had. And I have to say, amazing support from DC and from Erin and the other sort of in the anti-MLM field. So, but yeah, I do want to, although I will cover on MLM, I think there is enough really amazing anti-MLM creators out there that I want to keep mine focused on the medicine and debunking the medical claims and supporting their channels along with that. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So thanks, Marie. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Mr. Angel Lab. I hope that the labs are doing all right. So I'm gonna go out and check on Dougal. He seems happy enough by himself. He has still been doing binkies around the garden, but yeah, he'll have a new friend at the weekend. And I don't know, my 2 cats aren't here, but Nobby did make a perfect timing for the pet section of the colloidal silver video, which was funny. Yeah, I was going to say, we all need to stick to our expertise. Yeah, when it comes to the whole cult and all the manipulation side of it, I don't understand all of that. I just know that it's wrong. So yeah, I listen to the expertise of all of the others. So yeah, thanks, Lynn, and thanks, Elsie. Take care, everybody, and I'm hoping either in 2 or 3 weeks I'll be back live again, and hopefully I've got 2 videos up between that now and then as well. Thank you. See ya.